can summarize in one word how I passed the NCLEX, and that is...
Oh, yes, of course.
Hey guys, so it's Sarah and I am back with a new video. Today I'm going to be talking about how I passed the NCLEX RN in 75 questions. Yes, I passed the NCLEX RN in 75 questions, and I did not think that that was possible. To anyone who is new, nursing school is usually 4 years if you get your RN license, and at the end of those 4 years you have to take a boards test which tests everything that you've learned in nursing school. That can be really challenging and really difficult because you don't really know what they're going to be testing on. It could be anything that you learn. I was super nervous for the NCLEX. I have never been a very good test taker. Going to a test not really knowing what to expect is super nerve-wracking. I made it through because I watched a lot of YouTube videos on people who had passed the NCLEX in 75 questions or who had passed, in 200 questions. I promised myself that if I did pass the NCLEX in general, it didn't even have to be in 75 questions. I would make a video telling people how I did it, so maybe you guys out there who are getting ready to take the NCLEX aren't going to freak out as much. If you see me looking down, I do have things written in my notebook here because I don't want to forget anything. So if you do see me looking down, that is why. So first, let's do a quick overview of what the NCLEX is and how the NCLEX works.
Planning.
The NCLEX basically works on what we call CAT. And CAT stands for Computerized Adaptive Testing. So CAT estimates your nursing knowledge or ability with what question comes next based on whether or not you answered the previous question right or wrong. And these questions vary in difficulty. So for example, let's say you start the NCLEX and you get the question right. So once you get the question right, you're going to move on to a more difficult question. So the computer is basically taking that knowledge saying, well, she got it right, so she must be able to answer a harder question, and it's going to give you a harder question. Now let's say you get the next question wrong. It's going to say, well, she answered that one wrong, so we're going to give her an easier question and see if she can answer that one right, and so on and so forth. And it's just going to kind of keep going on like that until it can determine whether or not you have enough nursing skills and ability to become an RN. So the level of difficulty of the questions is definitely based on your responses. I do want to mention here that the LPN exam, I think, works on the same principles, but I am not sure, so I'm specifically talking about the RN NCLEX, and I don't want to get anyone confused in case it doesn't work the same. So now let's talk about the format of the NCLEX. The least amount of questions that you can get on the NCLEX is 75 questions. So what does this mean? Well, it means either that you did so well that the computer doesn't need to test you anymore. You did so well in those 75 questions and you answered, the most that you needed to answer right to pass in the least amount of questions. But you can also fail in 75 questions. If you fail on 75 questions, that basically means that you did so poorly that the computer feels like you don't need to test anymore because it already knows that you're not going to do any better. I know they can be super harsh, but I just want to say if you do get 75 questions and the computer stops on 75 questions, 99% of the time it's because you did really well. Now let's talk about the most amount of questions you can get on the NCLEX. So the most amount of questions you can get on the NCLEX is 265 questions, which is insane. What does 265 questions mean? So if you pass at 265 questions, it means that the computer needed the full amount of questions to test you on in order to determine if you knew the material good enough to get your licensure. If you do pass on 265 questions, don't be hard on yourself or anything in between that. I mean, it's definitely good that you even passed, so bravo to you. Now let's say you fail at 265 questions. That basically means that the computer needed that much time to determine that you didn't know all of the material the first time. So I started off not really knowing how to study for the NCLEX. And so my method was to basically buy anything and everything, buy every workbook, buy every flashcard that you could find that would help you pass the NCLEX. I just didn't find these methods very helpful. Now I definitely know people use these and it really helps them and they pass the NCLEX, but for me personally, they did not work, and I want to let you guys know why. First of all, I just want to say that one of the main things that helped me pass the NCLEX was using materials that had a lot of practice questions. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Practice questions are key to passing the NCLEX. Memorizing this material, first of all, you're not going to get very far. It's going to take you literally years to memorize all of this. And second of all, it's not going to help you in the NCLEX. Practice questions are going to help. Trust me. And I don't mean just practicing like 10 questions and then going to take the NCLEX. I mean practicing like thousands of questions before you go take the NCLEX. So I found that these workbooks were very heavily material focused, which is great. I do suggest reviewing material that you aren't very comfortable with. So you may be thinking to yourself, well, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. I don't remember any material. So what would you suggest focusing on? Just pick sections that maybe in nursing school you had a really hard time with. But I would not say to spend a ton of time on reviewing material because the practice questions are definitely going to help do that anyway. These books definitely do have some practice questions in them, but they're not as much as I would like, and that's why they just didn't work for me. Next reason why these methods didn't help me is because they really focused on memorization rather than learning. So like I was saying before, it's very important that you don't just go in studying the NCLEX material just to memorize the information. You may have been able to do that on nursing tests because it's a smaller amount of information and you were only studying a small section of material. But going into the NCLEX, definitely do not take that approach. If you understand the processes of each of these different sections, like the heart and the nerves and the kidneys, you're going to be able to answer any question because it's all going to be critical thinking, and you're going to be able to critically think it out because you understand the process. Do not memorize, try to understand. The third reason why I thought these methods were not useful is because it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. The NCLEX is already overwhelming enough. And I mean, getting all of these materials just laid in front of you and trying to figure out where to even start, it's overwhelming. Don't do it to yourself. One of the materials I got at first that I actually did use was called the HURST Review. The HURST Review. The HURST Review breaks down all of the material into sections, and it makes it super easy to learn the material and memorize the material. You can print out these worksheets, or you can also buy their workbook where it just comes like pre-printed, and you watch videos online that you buy and you fill out these work pages, kind of like a class. So you watch it, you take notes, and then you review it. Again, the HURST Review is not focused on practice questions that much. It's really focused on material. It's material heavy. Now, I will say this really helped me in understanding the material because I was not the strongest on all the material, and I did have to definitely study the material. And so this definitely broke it down into something easy that I could study. I started off using this every day. I was trying to memorize all this material and it was too much for me. But towards the end, and once I was getting my groove, I used this in combination with the other program that I'm going to talk about to review my material. So I might take 2 sections a day and just, go over this material really quickly. Maybe spend longer on the sections that I needed more help in, and then just, move on with my life. So now let's get into what you guys all are here for. How did I actually pass the NCLEX? can summarize in one word how I passed the NCLEX, and that is
Uworld.
Uworld is a computerized program that you pay for that you can choose different plans from, and each one I think costs different amounts of money. You log in, it gives you a set of questions, and you can just go through those questions and cycle through them. You can choose the questions based off of your strengths and weaknesses. So I was always really bad at pharmacology, so I could choose the questions I wanted that were related to pharmacology and specifically study those questions. You could also do it like the real NCLEX, where you're gonna get questions from every category. I started using Uworld about 1 month before I took the exam. I definitely start sooner. I feel like if I would have started sooner, I probably would have done even better on the NCLEX. My favorite way to study was to definitely just do the option where you can just get questions from everywhere, every category, because it's most like the NCLEX. If you use Uworld correctly, you're definitely gonna pass the NCLEX. But if you go in and you've only been doing 10 questions from Uworld every day, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not a genius. Maybe you are, maybe you could do that. I was not like that, and you're probably not gonna pass if you do that. It's very important that you set yourself a schedule on answering questions every single day. It's also very important that you use the questions correctly. What do I mean by that? Every time you get a question wrong, you're gonna get an explanation on Uworld on why you got it wrong. Now again, you don't wanna go through and memorize everything in the explanation, but you really wanna understand why you got it wrong. Once you start answering these questions more and more, your brain is gonna start thinking like the NCLEX. And I know it's weird, and I know at first you might get like all of them wrong and you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm literally gonna fail. But trust me, your brain is going to take in all this information and it's going to learn how to answer questions on the NCLEX. The questions on NCLEX are unlike any test questions that you've ever gotten on standardized testing. And it takes a lot of practice. Answering these questions are like a skill. And in order to become and master a skill, you have to keep practicing them. And I can't stress that enough, because I don't want you guys thinking that this is some miracle program that if you answer 10 questions a day, you're gonna pass the NCLEX, because that's not how it works. You have to put in the work, but Uworld is definitely a great tool to do that. So for me personally, I studied for the NCLEX about probably like 2 months. And I would use Uworld, and I would set a goal for answering at least 100 questions a day. It's very difficult to do that, and I wouldn't always meet that goal, but that was always my goal going into the day. I would definitely say one of the pros is it focuses on practice questions and not just memorizing. And like I said, that is the key to passing the NCLEX. Also, it's a customized learning experience. So you are customizing based on what you are good at, what you're bad at, what you want to focus on. There's so many settings and so many adjustments you can make in Uworld that allows you to customize it for your studying needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Thirdly, number 3, it gives you a lot of repetition. You're going over questions again and again and again and again, and all of them are kind of interrelated, which you might think like, how is that even possible if they're all about different categories? They're all kind of the same, but in different wording, if that makes sense. And so when you actually take the NCLEX, you're like, oh, I've seen this on Uworld before. One of my favorite things about Uworld is it actually simulates the NCLEX. So for example, the interface, the questions, the way that everything is set up on the website literally mimics the NCLEX. So if you're practicing Uworld every day on that same interface, you aren't gonna have to stress out about not knowing what it looks like. Everything literally mimics NCLEX. When you walk into the NCLEX, it's going to feel like just sitting down and doing practice questions on Uworld. One of the downfalls to Uworld is it's expensive, especially if you get HURST on top of that. Now I will say, I probably wouldn't have gotten HURST if I knew about Uworld beforehand, so keep that in mind, but it can definitely be expensive. So lastly, I do want to emphasize that you have to put in the work. And that's obviously just common sense, and I know that like it can be annoying for people to say this. Eating right, sleeping right, do not underestimate those things. I know it's just common sense. Eat well, sleep well, blah, blah, blah. But please do not underestimate those things, because those are all going to help you when going into the NCLEX if you have been doing these things. I would also say, and for a lot of people this might be weird, visualizing yourself doing well every night. Go to bed, meditate, visualize yourself going into the test, answering each question right. Picture yourself and feel how you're going to feel when you pass the test. Visualization was huge for me. So that's the end of my video. This is going to be probably a super long video, but it's something that I'm super passionate about because it's a struggle. Nursing school is a struggle, and passing anything in nursing school is a struggle. And if I can help anyone out there, even if it's just one person, I'm really happy that I can. Good luck to you guys. I just want to say, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. Do not psych yourself out. Definitely go in and knowing and being confident in yourself and believing in yourself that you can do it, because you passed nursing school. You passed nursing school. That's like a huge, huge feat. And if you can do that, you can definitely pass one more test. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. It probably won't be nursing related, but if you do like my nursing videos, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below. And also let me know what kind of content you want to see. I definitely need to start uploading more and on a more consistent schedule. All right, I will see you guys later. Bye.